This was my second trekking trip to Nepal. My first trip was trekking Everest Base Camp and 3 passes in September 2023. On this Nepal trip in 2025, we trekked Langtang Valley and Kanchenjunga Circuit back-to-back in 4 weeks. For me, it was exactly 2 months of total trip. I left Hawaii on the 15th of March and returned back on the 14th of May. For 2 months of trip in sequence, I visited some relatives and hiked several wonderful trails in South Korea, trekked 2 areas in Nepal, Langtang Valley for 7 days and Kanchenjunga Circuit for 19 days. And finished the trip with 2 weeks of vacation with my wife in South Korea. Thanks to my day hiking buddy, Leon, who came up with this year's Nepal trekking trips. I really liked its back-to-back trekking for 4 weeks since it's costly and a long way from Hawaii to Nepal. This was Leon's 11th trekking trip to Nepal and his last, he said. Langtang Valley trekking was just 7 days that included bus and jeep rides to the trailhead. It was originally for 8 days, but we were able to reduce 1 day since it was out and back trekking. Total trekking specification that included all the side trips was about 52 miles with 18,899 feet elevation gain. Please note that this was recorded using a Garmin 450T GPS unit. There can be some errors. The highlights of Langtang Valley trekking were sightseeing rhododendron flowers, mosses, waterfalls, Nepali monkeys, Himalayan langur, and summiting Kanchenjunga at 15,660 feet, 4,773 meter, and Chior-go-ri at 16,512 feet, 5,033 meter. Here were my flights from Hawaii to Nepal. It was a long flight, 9.5 hours from Hawaii to South Korea and 8 hours from South Korea to Nepal. Nepal is located in South Asia between China and India. Here is a map of Nepal. Nepal is roughly 5.2 times larger than the Hawaiian Islands chain, and 95 times bigger than the island of Oahu where I live in Hawaii. Langtang Valley is geographically located 35 miles north from Kathmandu. We took a bus from Kathmandu to Everest. It was about 120 miles, 200 kilometers. It was 7.5 hours of bus ride. It took so long because the bus was truly a local private bus that picked up and dropped off the locals. It was interesting to see the hard-working and humble locals. The driver and his assistant were trying to pack as much as they could for the long haul. We were fully loaded and jam-packed when we left. Here were some views on the way to Everest. This was beautiful rice terraces on the hillsides. Terrace farming looks so beautiful and peaceful, but lots of work are required to tend since they are typically not accessible to tractors and other large farming equipment. After 7.5 hours of driving on some rough roads, we finally arrived at Everest. On a side trip, we hiked up to the Tibetan Buddhist stupa and pagoda about 1/4 of a mile away to the north. This was a very nice viewpoint where you could see the whole town of Everest. We could see where we were staying way down there. Our second day was the first day of trekking from Everest, 4,790 feet, to Lama Hotel, 8,245 feet. It was about 8.4 miles with whopping 4,484 feet elevation gain. This was our first day of trekking. We were stoked. Here was our gang just before leaving the guest house around 0700. We will come back here for lunch in 6 days. This was about 0.3 miles in that we dropped down to the lowest point of the valley at 4,675 feet in elevation. From the bottom of the valley about 0.6 miles in, it went up and up. After crossing over the Langtang Kola River, we walked on this dirt road for about 1.3 miles. When a car passed by us a few times, it was not pleasant to walk on this dirt road due to its dust. We met some other trekkers doing the similar trip like us. This was about 2.5 miles in just past the hydroelectric plant. By the way, Nepal creates 99.8% of the country's electricity from hydropower. Here were some steep sections around 3.5 miles in. There were several steep sections since it's whopping 4,484 feet elevation gain in 8.4 miles. Of course, some portions were easy, especially along the riverbed. It's pleasant to walk along the roaring river like this. It is a common sight to see mules convoy in the hills and mountains in Nepal. We've witnessed several mules convoy during our trip. We had lunch here around 6,600 feet in elevation. It was right next to the roaring river. From this lunch spot, we still needed to go about 3 miles, gaining about 1,700 feet elevation. Here was another steep section after lunch. We met some Nepali trekkers. It was good to see some local trekkers. This was another suspension bridge. At this point, we still had about 2 more hours to go. We were now about 1 mile away from Lama Hotel, our final destination for the second day. This was at Rimchi, about 0.5 miles down from Lama Hotel. We took half-hour break here. We finally arrived at the Lama Hotel, 8,245 feet, in about 7 hours. Interestingly, its name is its area. We walked down to the river and took a bath. It was close to 75 degrees, but water was super cold. Our third day was trekking from Lama Hotel, 8,245 feet, to Langtang village, 11,396 feet. It was about 8.7 miles with 3,741 feet elevation gain. Here was a picture of our room. I had a good night's sleep because of the roaring river a few hundred yards down the trail. Here was the dining room and my breakfast. We had an early start again at 0700 because it's a long way to go. From the get-go, it's an uphill. Leaving the Lama Hotel area, these big group of trekkers were having breakfast outside. On a side note, it was amazing that, throughout our trekking, we met the trekkers from 28 countries. Another mules convoy. When you see the convoy of mules or yaks, stay aside to let them go first. We were just over 1 mile in and entered the rhododendron forest. This video did not show well, but there were white, red, and pink rhododendron flowers. By the way, rhododendron is the official flower of the state of Washington. These trekkers were from Switzerland. As I said before, we met the trekkers from 28 countries. There were several Nepali monkeys, Himalayan langur. I was told that, on the right, those trees were wiped out by landslides caused by earthquake in 2015. This was our lunch place. I also charged my GoPro battery using my portable solar panel on the table here. This was where it had been about 5 hours since we started trekking. From here, it was about 1.5 hours more to the Langtang villages. Here was another mules convoy. This is the memorial for the estimated 310 lives, 10 soldiers, 176 locals, and 80 trekkers, lost during an avalanche caused by the earthquake in the 25th April 2015. Finally, we arrived at Langtang villages in 7.5 hours. It was a long and fun trek, but not particularly difficult due to its gentle slope. This was the Langtang villages. All of these buildings are built new after the 2015 earthquakes. Langtang Flavor Guest House was our destination. It was newly built with a toilet in the room. It was my first time sleeping in a guest house with a toilet while trekking in Nepal. Our fourth day was trekking from Langtang village, 11,396 feet, to Kanchenjunga, 12,733 feet, and climbing Kanchenjunga Lower Peak, 14,218 feet, and Upper Peak, 15,149 feet, as an optional trip. For the trekking portion, it was about 4.3 miles with 1,532 feet elevation gain. Getting ready for the fourth day of trekking. This was dining area for the porters and guides. This was my big breakfast for the fourth day of trekking. Albeit it was a short trekking day, we headed out early close to 7 again because we could climb the Kanchenjunga as an optional trip. It was a very nice blue bird day. We certainly would like to get to Kanchenjunga early and climb the Kanchenjunga well after lunch. It was a bit chilly morning but quickly warmed up as the sun rose. This was above 12,000 feet in elevation, which is in high altitude alpine zone. Certainly, it was above the tree line. These trekkers were from France. Then, the big group of students behind was from South Africa. As I said before, we met the trekkers from 28 countries during the Langtang Valley trek. These mules were carrying all those camping gears, food, and so on for the 35 students group from South Africa. We met a huge group of Korean trekkers coming down from the Kanchenjunga. One lady said that many of them could not try Kanchenjunga because of altitude sickness. Just before Kanchenjunga, here was our guide, Subaraj. He is the owner of the trekking company, Enjoy Himalaya Private Limited. Here was Leon and I cheering up each other. We are less than 0.5 miles away from Kanchenjunga. We were advised that we could see the Kanchenjunga and Chorgo Leeway ahead of us. Here was our group picture before going down to the Kanchenjunga. Here is a grandeur view of Kanchenjunga. It is a beautiful area surrounded by snowy peaks. We saw this yak guarding the entrance of Kanchenjunga. After settling in at Kanchenjunga, we had lunch and took a short nap. Then, we hiked up the Kanchenjunga. It was a bit challenging. Leon did the lower peak. I did both peaks, lower at 14,218 feet and upper at 15,149 feet. For the side trip to Kanchenjunga, upper peak, it was 3.3 miles loop with 2,624 feet elevation gain. After lunch, we headed up the Kanchenjunga. We could see the Kanchenjunga lower peak but not the upper peak. To the lower peak, it is about 0.85 miles with 600 feet gain. These wonderful switchbacks made it look easier to climb, but actually, the altitude was affecting a lot on breathing and muscle. We were about 1/3 way up at this point above 13,000 feet in elevation. I felt like I was energetic but was panting quite a bit. We saw these young trekkers resting about 1/2 way up at 13,500 feet in elevation. Obviously, elevation is affecting most of trekkers. Here was Leon's final push to the Kanchenjunga lower peak. It was short 0.9 miles to the summit with only 600 feet in elevation gain, but its altitude of 14,000 feet was affecting our body. This was at the Kanchenjunga lower peak. Many folks were enjoying the moments, soaking in the views, taking some photos, and chatting each other. Here was our group picture that included some other trekkers on the summit. I only stayed at the Kanchenjunga lower peak, 14,218 feet, for 5 minutes because I wanted to head up to the Kanchenjunga upper peak, 15,149 feet. It's straight forward on the ridge trail to the Kanchenjunga upper peak. It was about 0.7 miles with 930 feet elevation gain. Approaching the Kanchenjunga upper peak, 15,149 feet. It took me about 1 hour. There were 2 folks who passed me about 10 minutes ago. There were 2 more folks joined the summit. They just came from the opposite side. At the Kanchenjunga upper peak, it was quite chilly and windy, as you might notice looking at those Himalayan prayer flags. It says that its elevation is 4,700 meters, which is 15,420 feet. My Garmin 450T GPS unit was only indicating 15,160 feet. My GPS unit has been correct up to 30 feet, but it's off by 260 feet. My GPS unit might be getting too old. 360-degree views before descending. Heading back down to Kanchenjunga was straightforward. This was my last video for day 4. Our plan for day 5 was to climb the Cheogori, and to trek back down 4.3 miles from Kanchenjunga, 12,620 feet, to Langtang village, 11,396 feet. Cheogori was the highest point on our Langtang Valley trekking. The marker at the summit says 4,985 meters, which is 16,355 feet. My Garmin GPS indicated 16,388 feet. My GPS reading was off by 33 feet. The climbing specification for Cheogori was 6.7 miles out and back with 3,975 feet elevation gain. We started at 0530 as the sunrise was at 0554. I was stoked about climbing Cheogori since it's the highest point we would be during our trek. It was a very nice day but a bit cold morning. It was probably around low 30s, not quite 20s. However, it did not warrant me wearing my gloves. This was around 0610, which was 40 minutes into climbing, about 1.2 miles, and getting on to the steep ridge. It was around 0620. We now could see the Cheogori peak way ahead. It is about 2 miles away. Went through these boulder fields on a steep climb. It looked easy, but it was difficult due to high elevation around 14,500 feet. This was still climbing to the north just before turning to the south at 0850. We had been climbing just over 3 hours. Its elevation was around 15,800 feet. We just turned southerly toward the summit. We are less than 1/2 mile to the summit. The summit, Cheogori, is right in front of us. The last 0.2 mile was quite steep and I was panting a lot. Just above here, about 0.1 miles before the summit, I had my moment of pain on my legs and had short breath. I enjoyed the moment being a masochist. In truth, that's the reason I stopped technical climbing of a mountain. My last technical climbing of a mountain was the Mount Rainier, 14,411 feet, in Washington State in 2013. Here we were at the Cheogori in 16,355 feet elevation. It took us 4 hours 20 minutes. It's reasonable time since it was 3.7 miles to the summit, gaining 3,975 feet elevation. Since we started early, there was nobody else around, except for one lone trekker who passed us about halfway. We took lots of commemorative photos. Of course, we took Leon's signature jump photos. Thanks to our trek guide, Subaraji, for taking this video as we were leaving the summit, Cheogori. I will omit the rest of videos going down, except for this one since I did not have a good video of the boulder fields as we were coming up. We also started seeing several trekkers coming up as well. We came back at Kanchenjunga around 12:30, ate lunch, took a short nap, and headed to Langtang village just past 2 p.m. Then, it was basically cross-country back down to Langtang village. We just came up this trail yesterday. On day 1 or 2, I forgot to mention that there was heavy smog in the valley. It's most likely from Kathmandu, which is geographically only 30 miles away from Everest. As you might notice, it's hazy up there. It's smog. Langtang village was ahead. This concluded day 5. Arrived back here. This was the place where we took a group photo yesterday morning. Day 6 was trekking from Langtang village, 11,396 feet, to Sherpa Gaon, 8,568 feet. It was a different route than day 1 that trekked along the Langtang Kola River. It was about 10.3 miles with 1,643 feet elevation gain. The Sherpa Gaon village was up on the hill. We started trekking down around 0720. Weather was actually cloudy to the east where the Sergo Ri was. So, we were very lucky yesterday having a blue sky day on our summit day. Here was a mule's convoy. How much weight does a mule carry? Per Perplexity AI, mules typically carry around 80 to 100 kilograms. In India, regulations limit mule loads to 200 kilograms, and similar practices are observed in Nepal. Here were those Nepali monkeys again that we saw on our third day, just 3 days ago. They are Himalayan langurs that are prevalent in the lower areas of Langtang Valley. This was at time 0945, which was 2 hours 25 minutes since we were trekking down from Langtang village. We were passing through the rhododendron forest. The flowers might bloom in 2 weeks. There were some full-bloom rhododendron flowers at the lower elevation areas. There were 3 different colors: white, red, and pink. We had been trekking over 8 miles downhill. Then, we needed to gain 450 feet elevation in 1.2 miles to get to Sherpa Gaon, our destination for the day. Here were red rhododendron flowers on the way to Sherpa Gaon. We arrived at Tibet Guest House, Sherpa Gaon around 0320 p.m. We saw a Nepali monkey, Himalayan langur. One of locals said that they come and try to eat some potatoes. On day 7, we trekked from Sherpa Gaon, 8,568 feet, to Everest, 4,790 feet. After lunch, we drove back to Kathmandu, 4,593 feet. The trekking portions was 5.7 miles with 745 feet elevation gain and whopping 4,300 feet elevation loss. We had an early start at 0625. This Sherpa Gaon village is a beautiful area nested on the side of the hill facing south, Kathmandu direction. We already could see the smog ahead. It's the pollution coming from Kathmandu. This was the second mule's convoy for the day. They must be heading up to the Sherpa Gaon village. On our way down, we met some German trekkers coming up the steep slope. It's a steep hill that gains 4,300 feet in elevation in 4 miles. We were about 1 mile left to Everest that we could see in the background. Here was Leon charging ahead. He had been always fast going downhill. We were arriving at Everest. Just past the bridge, the jeep was waiting for us. This ends our trekking portion of the trip. This jeep was waiting for us right across the bridge. At Everest, we had lunch at the Trekkers Inn Hotel where we stayed for the first night and drove out to Kathmandu. I could not quite remember, but I thought 2/3 of the roads to Kathmandu were dirt road like this. Of course, it was a lot easier on a paved road. This concluded our Langtang Valley trip. After 4 days in Kathmandu, we started Kanchenjunga Circuit trekking for 19 days. Thanks for watching my video and stand by for more of Nepal trekking videos.